Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to give you an answer concerning this. If it be so, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the furnace of the blazing fire, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But even if he does not, let it be known to you, O king, that we are not going to serve your gods or worship the golden image that you have set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar was filled with wrath, and his facial expression was altered toward Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He ordered by giving orders to heat the furnace 7 times more than it was usually heated. And he commanded certain valiant warriors who were in his army to tie up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in order to cast them into the furnace of the blazing fire. In order to cast them into the furnace of the blazing fire. Then these men were tied up in their trousers, their coats, their caps, and their other clothes, and were cast into the midst of the furnace of blazing fire. For this reason, because the king's command was urgent, and the furnace had been made extremely hot, the flame of the fire slew those men who carried up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. But these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell into the midst of the furnace of blazing fire, still tied up. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was astounded and stood up in haste. He responded and said to his high officials, Was it not 3 men we cast bound into the midst of the fire? They answered and said to the king, Certainly, O king. He answered and said, Look, I see 4 men loosed and walking around in the midst of the fire without harm, and the appearance of the 4th is like the son of the gods. Then Nebuchadnezzar came near to the door of the furnace of blazing fire. He responded and said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, come out, you servants of the Most High God, and come here. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out of the midst of the fire. And the satraps and prefects and governors and the king's high officials gathered around and saw in regard to these men that the fire had no effect on the bodies of these men, nor was the hair of their heads singed, nor were their trousers damaged, nor had the smell of fire even come upon them. Nebuchadnezzar responded and said, Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and delivered his servants, who put their trust in him, violating the king's command, and yielded up their bodies, so as not to serve or worship any god except their own God. Daniel 3:16-28. Reflections. At one time or another, all of us have found the flames of the refiner's fire. No matter how we balk at the idea, God has promised to refine his children. To refine, Webster says, to refine is to make fine or pure, free from impurities, dross, alloy, or sediment. To free from imperfection, coarseness, crudeness, etc. A refiner's fire, of course, is supposed to improve whatever commodity goes into it. But how many of us go through the refiner's fire and come out on the other side looking like charcoal or rusty iron or smoky ashes? Often when we come through a period of suffering, we want to make sure that everybody knows all the sad and sordid details, the thing of beauty that God wanted to create by sending us into the flames becomes tarnished by our complaints, and we be gone expressions, see, or the woebegone expressions. Be honest, if you've had one of those days when you feel as if you've been dragged through the refiner's fire, how do you show it? By boasting about your trials? If you do, I'm afraid people are going to smell smoke. Your testimony may end up tarnished, even scorched. Hey now, there's a better way. Let's offer sincere, wholehearted praise to God as we walk through the refiner's fire. Perhaps those who pause to peer through our furnace will see the Son of God walking with us, as he did with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Reflections, brother. Reflections.